Okay, it's Monday, which means against my better judgment it's time to go to Reddit and see what we can find in this hive of scum and villainy. So I've gone to the Overwatch University subreddit ahead of time and just scraped all the questions off the first couple of pages. I'm going to answer them now while some footage of Dragon Ball FighterZ plays in the background because it's a better game than Overwatch. And if you're wondering which side I was on, it's neither of them. I still don't have a controller, and my replays are broken because of the new patch. So please just pretend whichever side won was me, thank you. And yes, I missed yesterday, so here I am, in the squid of shame. So first off, we've got a few rapid-fire questions we're going to go through. First off, does Lucio heal if he is asleep while healing song is on? Yes, the speed aura also still works. 2. If you are hit by an ally's Ana nade while Bridget's Inspire is active on you, will the effects of healing improve, or would they have to have been hit with the nade before Inspire activates? It will improve the healing effect. It would be extremely fucking rude if it needed to have if you needed to have been hit by with the grenade first. That would be terrible. But no, it's not that cruel. Third, do you get any ult charge as Lucio from an offensive assist, speed boosting an ally? No, you do not. And last, how high of a y-axis does Inspire/Healing Song have? I'm curious if Pharah benefits at all from these characters. It's whatever the effect of the ability says it is. Like, Bridget has a 20-meter radius on Inspire. That includes up, because it's radius in a sphere. I found out from looking at the thread that this question was in, Baptiste actually works a little bit differently with Regenerative Burst. Apparently Regenerative Burst works better or goes further in the direction you're looking, apparently. I don't know by how much, but it said that, and I obviously believed it without checking any further. So there you go, you learned something new today. So that's that. Now, first actual question. How can I help my girlfriend, bottom 1%? And this boy was basically talking about his girlfriend who had just started playing the game. It's her first FPS game, and he's like, how do I make her play better, pretty much. So, she's level 6 when he posted this, and the really telling part of the question to me was, quote, she will occasionally try a different hero when I tell her to, but she gets stressed and goes back to Sombra. She likes Sombra. It's the only character she plays. So, maybe just let her play the fucking video game without breathing down her neck all the time, dude. Like, let her have fun with the video game, as startling of a concept as that might be. You know, you're gonna really suck her enthusiasm out of the game out of her if you just stand behind her breathing down her neck constantly because she's not doing well. Like, and you're like telling her what to play and shit. You know, not everybody really goes into that. She might not really care about being all that good at the video game. She probably doesn't care while she's fucking level 6, really. Maybe just relax there, brother, you know? Let her see if she likes the game and just learn from playing before you worry about it too much. If you really want to help her, like she's new to the game, just fucking pocket her as Mercy or some shit. You know, let her play the video game. As shocking as that might be. People play video games for lots of different reasons. If you're the kind of person who's going and posting on the university subreddit, you probably care a lot about actually winning. Your girlfriend might not, really. She might just like to play Sombra and doesn't really care how well she does necessarily, you know? A large part of the crux of it was basically like, she wants to play a hard hero. That's bad. She doesn't know how to play the game. She doesn't know how to play an FPS. If it's her first FPS game, she's not going to know how to play any of the heroes, really, is she? So it's sort of irrelevant in that regard. Every hero is going to seem complex to her, probably. Let people have fun with video games is the moral of the story. I was pleasantly surprised to see that Reddit mostly agreed with me on this one, and because I was expecting to click on this thread and see everybody going, VoD, 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 because that's usually what happens when anybody posts any kind of question about somebody's skill, regardless of context provided in the thread. They always just go, post a VoD. because that's easier than thinking of an actual response. But for the most part in this one, people actually just said, let her play the video game, and I was surprisingly surprised. My heart grew 5 times that day. So yeah, the moral of the story is let people play the video game and have fun with the video game, you fucking weird people. God damn. So here's my mostly transparent sum. So next up is, what stats should I be worrying about as Reinhardt? Is deaths per 10 minute the most important? So I'm of the mindset that deaths is the only stat worth worrying about at any point in time on any hero. Because deaths is the only stat that cannot lie to you. Because some stats, most stats, how good they are varies very heavily in the game that you played. I always use accuracy as the example for this. If you're playing in a game, like imagine we could still play during GOATs, right? Imagine you're playing against GOATs, and you're playing Widowmaker. Having an accuracy of 60% versus GOATs is not particularly impressive because they're very easy to hit people. You should have a high accuracy versus that team. Whereas if you compare that to like 5 DPS and a Lucio, 40% would suddenly be pretty good because you're playing against like a lot of very hard to hit people. So I can lie to you in this regard. Damage is always the one that people most commonly use erroneously, because I've got the gold damage, ergo I must be doing well on insert hero here. Well, what's your limbs though, brother? It's gold. What's the number on the eliminations, brother? 3. It's 7 minutes into the game, isn't it? Maybe. I have the gold, though. So, you know, deaths is the only one that can't lie to you. It is always better to have died less. There are no extraneous circumstances in which dying more is better. And no, there are none. People have tried to argue this point with me before, that, what about 0.0001% chance of occurring outlier situation? It's okay, we are allowed to just say that those situations don't occur, because most people will never encounter them. In all likelihood, you have not encountered it. You're just out here being a fucking pedant. We shouldn't speak in such absolute terms. No, deaths can never lie to you. Dying less is always better than dying more. Don't try. People have tried. You're wrong. So there you go. So next up is thoughts on Sigma in the new patch. No longer viable as a main tank. He was already not very good as a main tank to begin with. I was never a fan of Sigma as a main tank. He could do it, you know, in the same way that Zarya Roadhog can win. You know, it wasn't that bad. I still wasn't a fan of it, though. And now it's just not feasible to run Sigma as your main tank, I don't think. I think he is still fine as an off tank, but I do not think he is viable as a main tank at all. I am also pretty much of this opinion with Orisa. She, I think, you can still do as a main tank more than Sigma, but I find Orisa not particularly like, you know, don't come to me and go, well, the pros and the top 500s and all that are still doing it. I don't give a fuck, dude. Are you top 500? You probably aren't, so it's irrelevant to you and me, isn't it? For the bulk of the player base, I don't think it is particularly feasible for them to be running Orisa as a main tank. Yes, I think you can do it. I wouldn't really recommend it. I think you're gonna have to put in a lot of extra work, and your teammates are gonna need to work with you on this one, which is not reliable outside of, you know, very high SRs or some kind of organized setting. Coordinated setting might be a better way to put it. So, you know, don't play Toes as a main tank. Moral of the story. But we're going through these questions really fast today, aren't we? So, next up is, how do hitscan/Widow players in High Masters Plus achieve that level of aim? Man, they practice a lot. They practice a depressingly large amount of time. You know, a lot of these people have practiced for years, because they've played other FPS games, you know. It's a lot of work to get really good at Widowmaker in particular, but hit-scan heroes in general, like, getting really good at them takes a very high amount of investment. Widowmaker is the worst one for this because she has very little utility to fall back on. Because, you know, McCree theoretically would be as hard as Widowmaker, but McCree has more utility than Widowmaker, which makes him easier to use in a lot of situations, because he can always just use Flashbang Fan the Hammer, right? Like that, there's very little skill required to do that. So it's easier to play Widow, or easier to play McCree because he has this fallback. Widow has no such fallback. Yeah, you know, there's stuff where, like, your ult's great and all, you know, there's an amount of zone control that Widow exerts that McCree doesn't exert because she has a much higher zone of threat than McCree does, sorry. But for the most part, you gotta click on dudes. And there isn't a lot else going on with Widowmaker, so she's harder to play than the others comparatively. Even Ashe is easier than Widowmaker because Ashe has the Dynamite, the Coach Gun, and Daddy to fall back on. Widowmaker does not have these things. Widowmaker must click the bad men. It is hard to click the bad men. But, you know, they play the game a lot, dude. They practice their aim a lot. Now, there are other things to consider. This guy was going for such a hard read, and it did not work out for him. There's like this thing where it's not just aim, because there are other things in consideration, because how well you aim is also going to be somewhat dependent on your positioning. Because if you're too close to the bad men, if you're like Widow and you're too close to the bad men, it's going to be harder for you to aim. And if you're too far away, it's also going to be harder to aim. So positioning comes into it. Cursor placement also comes into it, because if you're just like, you know, hovering your cursor kind of off in nowhere, you have to cover more distance to click on the bad men, as opposed to if you have your cursor already where the bad men are likely to be in the near future, you have to put in less effort to cover the distance to click on the bad men. You know, these are elements of the game that affect how good your aim is as well, that you don't necessarily improve just through raw practice. There's an amount of, like, meta-knowledge attached to those as well, but for the most part, if you want to be really good at Widowmaker, you must practice a depressingly large amount of the time. And it will feel very bad, and you will not have fun for a vast majority of that time, because it feels bad to do bad, and people are going to be talking a lot of shit. If you're trying to get good at a hero that is hard to play with, by the way, like Widowmaker, Sombra, what have you, just do yourself a favor, don't join voice chat. It's not worth it. It's not worth it anyway, but it's really not worth it. Here's a hot tip for you, so that you never have to deal with people being assholes again. First off, go into your settings, set it so that you auto-join team chat, but here's the crucial step here. Go to your sound settings and set the team chat volume to 0. They think you're in team chat, and they will talk to you as if you are in team chat, none the wiser. Step 2, turn off the chat. Turn it off. There's a key combination that does this. Let me just go and look for it now real quick, because I don't know what it is offhand. Overwatch, text chat. I should have typed in text chat. Disable, yes, that's the word we should type in. A professional man would cut this out, but not me. It's okay, you can watch the video playing in the background. Control-Shift-C hides the team chat. So there you go. My advice for me to you, as person trying to play hard character: 0 volume voice chat, auto-join, turn off text chat. But shouldn't I communicate with my teammates because this is a team-based game? First off, communication is a skill, just like anything else. very few people in Overwatch possess good communication skills, because they're turbo nerds. Secondarily, what are they communicating with you? Please change off of X. If you're lucky. They might skip that step and just immediately go to calling you a retard. That's the general level the Overwatch community operates at. It's okay. I'm here to give you permission. You can safely disregard the voice chat and the text chat, because communication is a skill that few people have. So, there you go. So, next up is... lost my place. I like Zarya, but she has a low pick rate in Masters/GM and not many recommended tank duos. Is she bad? So, first off, are you Masters or Grandmasters? If no, it's irrelevant to you. Don't worry about it. Step 2, you mentioned pick rate. You did not mention win rate. That's probably the more important stat, rather than pick rate. And so here's the thing about the not many recommended tank duos is I've always disliked how people approach Zarya, because they always tell you don't pick Zarya with Orisa, right? Because this is the thing, when we're talking about tank duos, we're talking about a main tank versus an off tank. If you look at tanks broadly speaking, yeah, Zarya doesn't have many recommended duos because all the other off tanks are not viable duos. So we're looking at the other main tanks. And people tell you don't pick Zarya with Orisa. To me, this has always made me mad for a couple of reasons, because it's assuming a couple of things that are not true. First off, it's implying you only get, like, charge off of the main tank, which is not true. Yeah, it's helpful if you have a Reinhardt who knows how to play with a Zarya. You'll get more charge that way, sure. But it seems to imply you only bubble the main tank with your projected barrier, which is definitely not the case. You're going to bubble more people than just the main tank over the course of a game. Secondarily, it's assuming that the Orisa player spends 100% of her time behind her shield. This is definitely not true. Like, it seems to imply Orisa just doesn't take damage. Definitely not true. So you can play Zarya with Orisa, despite what people on Reddit will tell you, because most people are not playing in fucking Grandmasters! I get so mad about this, where they use, like, the pro players as an example. Are you a pro player? No? Irrelevant. Irrelevant. So, there's that. But here's, like, the crucial thing to this question, right? A hero is only as bad as you are. There you go. So that's all I got to say on that one. Don't worry about what the fucking pro players are doing. You can play Zarya with Orisa, and if you're good at a hero, you're good at a hero. Doesn't matter how good the hero is on paper. If you're good at them, you're good at them. Play what you want to play. It's a fucking video game. Have fun. So, next up is, what is the difference between a main tank and an off tank? So, future me is going to remember to do this, definitely, is going to include a link to a video in the description, which I think does an excellent job of illustrating the difference between a main tank and an off tank. So I would recommend watching that. But I will give my own answer as well, which is basically that a main tank gains gains control of space, and then an off tank secures that space. So the main tank, we'll just go the classic Rein Zarya example, as old as they come. Right, Rein holds his shield up, he blocks damage from the enemy team, right? Now, Zarya, our off tank, comes in here, because while Rein is holding shield up, what can Reinhardt not do? Reinhardt cannot hit bad men who are stood behind his shield, or attempting to stand behind his shield. This is where Zarya comes in. Zarya can hit the bad men that are standing behind Reinhardt's shield, or attempting to stand behind Reinhardt's shield, while Reinhardt is still holding his shield up. So, that's the main difference there. Now, could a DPS or a support also potentially do this? Yes, they could. Someone like McCree, Bridget, May. These people are also good at securing space behind Reinhardt's barrier. Does not necessarily have to be an off-tank that is securing this space. But it is most commonly an off-tank that is securing this space, and it is recommended you have a main tank and an off-tank for this reason. you can apply this to other people, you know, if Orisa is looking at bad men, putting her shield up at them, Orisa is not putting much of her effort into behind her shield. She's predominantly concerning herself with the enemy team in front of her, right? Trying to hold them back with her, you know, spamming fire into their shields, placing her shield forward-facing, not backwards-facing. And that's where the Roadhog, for example, comes in, and he goes around and he bullies the bad men that attempt to flank or get in on the off angles to the Orisa player. So, you know, that's the principal difference. Main tank gains space, off tank secures that space. And doesn't have to be an off tank. McCree, good example of someone that can. He's got crowd control. He's very scary up close because Flashbang Fan is going to kill you. Yeah, that's it. There you go. It is one of those things where I think a lot of people don't really know what the difference between a main tank and an off tank is, and they feel embarrassed about asking this question because it's something that people talk about so matter-of-factly, right? It's one of those things where, like, every now and then somebody goes, like, hey, what is game sense exactly? You know, because we talk about it very matter-of-factly, but never actually elaborate on what it itself means. So, you know, I think a lot of people don't really know what the difference between a main tank and an off tank is, and they're a little bit afraid to ask because it kind of sounds like a dumb question, right? It's okay. There's no dumb questions, only dumb people. So, next up is, for supports, when your team needs you to switch, but you're close to your ult, or greater than 50% to your ult, is it better to switch immediately, or get your ult first and then switch? So I've started changing my opinion on this question, because I was always of the opinion that if you're close to your ult, you should just use your ultimate before you switch. But more and more as time has gone by, I've started to change my mind on this, because what happens, I find, most of the time, is someone goes, I'll just use my ult, then switch. And then it takes them so long to use their ultimate and switch, the switch is no longer going to be helpful because it's too late. So I've started to change my mind on this, where I'm now of the opinion where even if you have your ultimate already, if there is somebody that is better to switch to, it's probably just going to be better to switch to them. You don't have to take quite such an extreme view as me to that one. Something to consider, you know, if you want to be a little bit less extreme on it, something to consider would be, how long is it going to take you to charge your ultimate? Because if you're at, like, greater than 50% of your ultimate, but it took you, like, 2 minutes to get to 50% charge, you might as well switch, because you might not get your ultimate before the round ends based off this current charge rate. So, you know, maybe consider that. Consider what your ultimate is. If you're playing Orisa, the Bongo is not a particularly powerful ultimate, so it being used is unlikely to be a tide turner, as opposed to something like Earth Shatter or Dragon Blade, which can win a fight by itself. You know, these are things to consider, but I think at this point, I've mostly decided that, like, if a switch is better, it's probably just better, like, you should probably just go for it rather than spending, like, potentially multiple minutes trying to spend something that you have no guarantee will even work if you use it. But, you know, I've no guarantee this Earth Shatter I'm holding is going to hit more than 0 men. But if I change to Winston to counter the Genji and snipers, they are being countered, you know? Like, it's not too hard to do that one. So think about it, you know? Those are things to consider, but at this point I'm just like, no, you should just switch, dog. So, there you go. So, next up, and this is the last question for this week. How long have we been here? No, it's about on average, actually. I thought we'd been way sooner. I couldn't see the clock. So, now, last question. When is it okay to die as a support, or when should I put my life, another life ahead of my own? Never. You're more important than them. You're the support, you're the most important member of the team, bar none. There is exactly one situation in which case it is worth thinking about sacrificing yourself for somebody else, and that is you are playing Mercy, and you can res somebody that has their ultimate. Because then, you know, if you res that person, if you res the Genji and he's got his Dragon Blade, maybe he gets to do Nano Blade, maybe just Dragon Blade by itself is enough, you know, that might be worth it, but that is the only example in which case you should put your life ahead, somebody else's life ahead of your own. You are the most important member of the team as a support, bar none. If a support dies right at the start of a fight, you're fucked. Right? Like, if you lose a tank at the start of the fight, it's not good, but you can potentially still win the fight. If you lose your main healer, you are pretty fucked, dog, because now any damage you take is permanent damage. And that's not very good to be in. So, no, never do it outside of that one situation. And before any turbo nerds come and go, well, what about this 0.0001% chance of occurring outlier situation? It's okay, that doesn't happen. We have the potential to be more than dirty fucking pedants. But yet you do it anyway, don't you? So anyway, that's all the questions. Now I gotta wait for this game to finish before we move on. Gee, I hope I won this game. Whichever side was me. So, I haven't got much to say right now, to be honest with you. Grand Blue Fantasy Versus looks pretty sick. You know, they showed off, they actually showed off, like, a lot of their DLC characters at their, like, convention thing that they did for Grand Blue. They even showed one of the characters from the Season 2 DLC, which is pretty wild to think about, that, like, the game isn't even out yet, and they've already shown one of the characters that's going to be in the second set of DLC characters. That's wild to think about. Meanwhile, I'm over here playing Dragon Ball FighterZ. We didn't even know with certainty that there was going to be a Season 2 or a Season 3. We were pretty damn confident there was going to be a Season 2, but we didn't know. And right now we don't know if there's going to be a Season 3, but we know that there's going to be a Season 3. Like, you know, after the next, like, main tournament occurs, they're probably going to announce the next season of DLC. I mean, there's still characters missing from fighters that are, like, obvious inclusions, so, you know, you kind of have to assume. Because, for one thing, we still don't have Ultra Instinct Goku, which is, like, a gimme, you know. We don't have, Kefla, who people have been petitioning for since Season 1, being, you know, the female Saiyan. People have wanted that one in there for a while. But, you know, still not in the game. Roshi still isn't in the game. Very highly requested character. We still don't have Raditz. Nobody actually wants Raditz. People say they want Raditz because then we can have all three of the original Saiyans on a team. Look, dog, no one even wants Nappa. Definitely no one wants fucking Raditz, okay? Let's not waste a spot on Raditz when we could have Bulma in a mech instead. God damn it. Anyway, so, game ended. Hooray, I won. So, thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation about them, or just shitpost with us. I've started streaming on Twitch Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 8 p.m. EST till 11 EST. There's links to the channel in the description. And if you managed to make it all the way through the video and somehow still enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe for more content and middle quality in the future. And I hope you found the video helpful.